Good evening, and welcome to Montclair State University's 2020 Graduate School Winter Commencement Ceremony. At this time, everyone should silence all electronic devices. Graduates, please rise as the processional will now begin. Leading the procession is the Grand Marshal, Professor Harban Singh. He carries the university mace, an ornamental staff symbolizing the President's authority. Now entering the theater are the Gonfaloniers, carrying the college and school flags. The faculty members bearing the gonfalons were selected for this honor by deans of their respective schools and colleges in acknowledgement of their scholarship and contributions to the university. Professor Eric Diamond is representing the College of the Arts. Professor Lisa Lieberman is carrying the gonfalon for the College of Education and Human Services. The Feliciano School of Business is being represented by Professor Warren Joe. Professor Pankaj Lal is carrying the gonfalon for the College of Science and Mathematics. Representing the graduate school is Professor Helen Roberts. Professor Laura LaCosta is representing the College of Humanities and Social Services. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of Montclair State University, our trustees, university officers, and honored guests. Please welcome our distinguished faculty and staff. Please be seated. Now, please welcome the president of Montclair State University, Dr. Susan A. Cole.
Good evening, everyone. These are the January 2020 Graduate School commencement exercises for Montclair State University. I extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guests, our graduates, their families and friends, and the university's faculty and staff. The national anthem will be sung by Christos Harakas, who is currently pursuing a Master of Music degree in performance and hopes soon to be standing or sitting where you are.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and white stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Thank you, Christos. We wish you success in completing that master's degree. It is my great pleasure to congratulate all the graduates. As you walk across this stage tonight, each of you represents a unique set of aspirations and accomplishments, and your pride will be shared by the family and friends who have joined you tonight and who have supported you in many ways through your journey. The successful completion of graduate education is a particularly noteworthy accomplishment, and the 665 students from the August and January class who will receive graduate degrees tonight will join a very special group. Nationally, only about 9% of Americans have earned a master's degree, and fewer than 2% have earned a doctoral degree, and you are now among them. As a large public university, at the heart of Montclair State's mission is to provide the opportunity for rigorous study in graduate and professional programs, not just to the privileged few, but to all those with the aspiration and the ability and the determination to achieve that education. So while this extraordinary accomplishment should give you much satisfaction, it also gives you a heavy responsibility to use the benefits of your education to make positive contributions to your family, your community, and the larger world. Your education will take on its full meaning, not tonight, but as you use it in the years to come for good purpose in the world. The intellectual maturity you have gained through your graduate studies has provided you with the grounding to be a highly skilled professional, to create new knowledge, to apply that knowledge to action in the world, and to continue the process of lifelong learning. What you will carry of value with you from the experience of graduate education is not a piece of paper attesting to your degree. Rather, it is the potential and some of the powerful tools you will need to achieve your professional goals and to live the kind of life that contributes to the shaping of society. Most of you are the first in your family to achieve a graduate degree, and most of you have the chance to stand in your communities as an example of what it means to garner your strength and determination to fulfill your potential. Don't shy away from standing as that example. Accept the responsibility both to live up to your own potential and the responsibility to show others the path to similar achievement. So this evening, we celebrate with you, and at the same time, we remind you that your hard work was not just for this day. The point and purpose of it all extends well into the future, and we will all be watching to see where your journey takes you. A number of special guests have joined us tonight to participate in this celebration. First, I am pleased to welcome our distinguished honorary degree recipient, Gurbir Grewal, Attorney General of the state of New Jersey. We're so pleased to have you with us. And I'm so pleased that we have with us tonight Edwin and Mimi Feliciano, students from the Feliciano School of Business, know who I mean. Also with us are members of our Board of Trustees, Chair of the Board, Dr. Francis Cuss, Trustee Rose Calley, Trustee Kent Slider, faculty representative to the Board, Professor Elizabeth Emery. Also here, the university's very talented, very hardworking vice presidents, deans, and senior officers. They're here on this joyous Friday to cheer you on, and I would ask them all to stand. I now call upon Harbans Singh, our Grand Marshal. Professor Singh is a member of the faculty in the Department of Earth and Environmental Studies and has served the university and its students faithfully for 49 years.
Thank you, President Cole. It has been an honor to be chosen as Grand Marshal for this auspicious occasion, but it is even greater honor for me to present the distinguished faculty of Montclair State University. Will the faculty please rise? Thank you. Please sit down.
I now invite Dr. Francis Cuss, Chair of the Board of Trustees, to bring greetings and to present our honorary degree recipient.
Good evening and welcome to all of you on this very exciting evening. For the past 87 years of its 112-year history, Montclair State University has embraced graduate education and played a very significant statewide role in preparing highly educated professionals in a wide range of fields. In the 1930s, Montclair State was the first of the state colleges to offer a master's degree. In the 1990s, we became the first of the state colleges to become a university and to offer doctoral degrees. In 2016, Montclair State was the first of the state colleges and universities to be recognized nationally as a doctoral research university. And in 2017, the university was further recognized by the state as a New Jersey public research university. These historic changes have transformed Montclair State at every step, establishing and distinguishing our stature as an institution in the fields for which you are being awarded degrees tonight. Throughout that history, Montclair State has fully embraced its mission as a university for the people. And now you have become part of the history of Montclair State University. And on behalf of the university's trustees, I congratulate you and your families and wish you a fulfilling future. It'd be nice to have a round of applause for that, right? Yeah, you really deserve that. So now it's my honor to present our honorary degree recipient. May I ask you to direct your attention to the video screens.
My parents came to the United States almost 50 years ago. They took a huge leap of faith, and they came in search of better opportunities to make sure that their children had additional educational opportunities that might not have been available to them. I'm a Jersey guy, born and raised in Jersey, did everything every American kid did. I just looked a little bit different. When I went to school, it was always to be some type of professional. And when I became a lawyer, I wanted to be the best lawyer I could be. But then September 11th happened. And I was a lawyer in Washington, D.C. I remember leaving the office and people staring at me. I remember people doing things to people who look like me. I began to think that folks didn't understand that you could look different and still love and serve this country. And so that was my trigger for public service. I became a federal prosecutor in Brooklyn. Then I was a federal prosecutor in New Jersey. And then that road led me to become the county prosecutor in Bergen County and then ultimately Attorney General. And I've never looked back.
It is my personal and tremendous honor to announce my choice of Gurbir Grewal of Glen Rock, New Jersey, to serve as New Jersey's next Attorney General.
I wanted to perhaps also show people that while I and others like me may look different or worship differently, that we too are committed to this country.
He's the first Sikh American Attorney General in the history of the United States. He embodies so much of New Jersey and what we're about.
New Jersey is just an incredible place. 1 in 5 residents in this state are immigrants. We're diverse in our backgrounds, in our religions, in our language.
We are the most diverse state in the nation by many measures. We wear that as a badge of honor, but it also gives us an extra responsibility. And Gurbir wears that responsibility as well as anybody I know.
To be the chief law enforcement officer for a state of 9 million residents, that is perhaps one of the most diverse states in this country. It's particularly special.
He's a great professional, an outstanding Attorney General who looks out every single day for the 9 million residents who call this great state their home.
It's not just representing for my faith, I think it's standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves.
I think the Attorney General serves as a role model for the citizens and for law enforcement just because of his compassion.
There's simply no limitations on your success
if you work hard.
I'm thrilled that I get to work alongside of him every day.
He's a role model for so many, including yours truly.
I'm responsible for 8,000 people in 13 divisions in the Department of Law and Public Safety. I certainly want to leave the department better than I found it, but I also want to leave the state better than I found it. I'm a parent of 3 young daughters. We all want our kids to grow up in a loving and understanding society. I want my kids to be able to live their lives freely, to grow up and not worry about being targeted because of what they look like, what they believe, who they love. We all have a responsibility in this moment to act better, and that's the message I sent to my daughters. That's the message I tried to portray through my work, and that's a message I'll continue to stand up for as Attorney General of New Jersey. To me, higher education is a great equalizer. Institutions like Montclair State provide folks a path to greater success in life.
Montclair State's a great university and a star in the New Jersey firmament.
And I think it's just so wonderful that a lot of the graduate students who are getting degrees are the first in their families to do so. I see the realization of the American dream. You can come from any walk of life, you could practice any faith, you could look any way and still be part of this great thing that we call America.
So now I would ask Provost Gingrich and the Grand Marshal to please escort Attorney General Gabriel S. Grewal to the lectern.
Gabriel Grewal graduated cum laude with a Bachelor of Science degree in Foreign Service from the Georgetown University School of Foreign Service and earned a law degree from the College of William and Mary Marshall Wythe School of Law. You served as an assistant United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, investigating and prosecuting narcotics offenses, white-collar crimes, and terrorism cases. You also served as an assistant United States Attorney in the Criminal Division of the United States Attorney's Office for the District of New Jersey, where you rose to be Chief of the Economic Crimes Unit and were the lead prosecutor in the largest known data breach prosecution to date. You then served as Bergen County Prosecutor, where your accomplishments included introducing initiatives offering low-level drug offenders treatment options upon arrest and establishing a community affairs unit which assisted local departments with improving police-community relations, causes you continue to make progress on in your current role. Since your confirmation as New Jersey's 61st Attorney General in January 2018, you have worked to protect the interests of the people of New Jersey by expanding affirmative litigation, strengthening police-community relations, reducing violent crime, and fighting the opioid epidemic. In recognition of your achievements, Montclair State University proudly bestows upon you, Gabriel S. Grewal, the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa.
Thank you, President Cole. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the State of New Jersey and the Board of Trustees of Montclair State University, and upon the recommendation of the President and the faculty, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa, with all the rights, duties, privileges, and immunities thereunto appertaining, of which this diploma is the written witness. Congratulations.
Wow. Thank you for that. President Cole, university trustees, distinguished faculty and staff, proud families and friends, and most importantly, our 2020 graduates. It is truly an honor and a privilege to join you this evening. And first and foremost, to our graduates, congratulations. President Cole, thank you not only for the transformational work that you are doing here at Montclair State, but also for this honorary degree this evening. A degree which, unlike our graduates, I didn't have to work for, and more importantly, I didn't have to pay for, and which I believe now entitles me to call myself Dr. Gurbir Grewal. And that, in fact, is the main reason I'm here tonight. Because while I may be our state's chief law enforcement officer, my wife, who's sitting right there, is a medical doctor. And she concludes every argument we have, which are not that many, by the way, by saying, listen, Gurbir, I'm a doctor, and I know what's best. Now, at least I could level the playing field a little bit and say, hey, not so fast, I have one of those as well. You know, about 20 years ago, and about 300 miles to the south of here, I remember sitting in a ceremony a lot like this one, surrounded by family and friends at my own law school graduation. And I remember listening to the commencement speaker. But honestly, I don't recall a thing he said. And until recently, I didn't remember who it was. Ironically, it was the Attorney General of Virginia at the time. So I hope that you find this Attorney General to be slightly more memorable than I found my own commencement speaker. But there are certain things that I remember vividly from my graduation ceremony. I remember feeling excitement about graduating. I remember feeling anxiety about the upcoming bar exam. I remember feeling anticipation about the legal career ahead of me. And I also remember the pride that my parents felt. And it was understandable. They had come to this country a few years before I was born. And they brought very little with them, except an expectation and a hope for a better life, and a firm belief that this country could provide it. You see, they took an incredible leap of faith over oceans and continents, leaving everyone and everything that they knew to come here. And in so many ways, their faith was rewarded. They got to experience their own version of the American dream. And as they sat at their son's graduation ceremony, seeing their only child walk across that stage, they could take pride knowing that their sacrifices were well worth it. And as I stand here this evening looking out at this great hall, I know that there are so many parents, so many family members, so many close friends who feel that same pride tonight. There are people in this room who took similar leaps of faith to come to this country in pursuit of their own versions of the American dream so that their children could be the first in their family to graduate from college and the first in their family, as we're celebrating tonight, to receive an advanced degree. There are so many people in this room who have made sacrifices, large and small, so that each of you could achieve the successes that we're celebrating here tonight. They're the ones who paved the way for you, who came along this journey with each of you, who urged you on when things got tough, and who will be there cheering for you in the time to come. So I ask that we take a moment to recognize all of them at this time. So, as I was preparing my remarks for this evening, I did what every good lawyer does. I went to Google. And I watched a number of commencement speeches in my office, and I'll be honest, there's some really bad ones on the internet. There are also some really good ones. So if I fall short tonight, please go home and watch Conan O'Brien's 2011 Dartmouth commencement speech. It's absolutely hilarious. But here's what the good speeches had in common. Not only were they funny, they had a part where the speaker shared some personal stories and offered some sage advice to the graduates. Since I'm no Conan and I have no late night show, I'm going to skip to the serious stuff. As you leave here tonight to continue on your journeys, I urge each of you to keep an open mind. You may leave here with a plan, with a clear goal or career path in mind, but things are not always going to work out as you planned them. Sometimes it'll be because of matters in your control, but more often than not, it'll be because of matters completely beyond your control, the result of something you could never have possibly imagined. All of that was certainly true for me. When I crossed that stage 20 years ago, I had no plan other than to pay off my student loans. I never thought about holding public office. In fact, when I was growing up not too far from here in Essex County, I never even thought it was possible for someone like me to hold a position of authority, let alone one day become our state's Attorney General. Listen, I never even wanted to be a lawyer in the first place. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a writer, which, if you don't know, is not one of the 3 preferred career paths in most Asian households. When I was growing up, it's either you could be a doctor, or maybe doctor. So I thought there was no better way for me to disappoint my parents, make them question all their sacrifices to come to this country, than by going to the smallest school I could find and the most isolated place I could find to write the great American novel. And so to do that, I enrolled in Bates College in Lewiston, Maine. One problem with my decision, actually a couple of problems. I had never visited Bates or Maine in the winter. I had only been there in the spring, which is an amazing time to be in Maine. The winter, not so much. The other problem was that I liked my international relations classes more than I liked my writing classes. So after a year in Maine, I transferred to the Georgetown School of Foreign Service, because at that moment, I was convinced that I wanted to be a foreign service officer, a diplomat, that I wanted to represent the United States around the world. Then out of nowhere, right before graduation, the State Department pulled the rug out from underneath me and implemented a hiring freeze. So with no plan B, I did what some of you will do tonight. I went back to my parents' house. I slept on their couch. I watched a lot of television. And after a couple of Law and Order marathons, I was then absolutely convinced that I wanted to be a lawyer. And that's precisely what I did. After attending law school, I joined one of the largest law firms in Washington, D.C., and frankly, I loved it. The work was fascinating, and I was able to start paying off some of those student loans that you're probably thinking about right now. Yes, but it wasn't my true calling. It wasn't my true calling. As we saw in the video, I found my calling on September 11th. And at that time, I remember watching our country come together. It was like no other moment in my lifetime. We were united both in grief and in anger. And there was this surge of patriotism, a patriotism that my family and I felt as deeply as our neighbors. But there was also a darker side. People who looked or believed differently, people like me, were targeted by some. In my case, it was constant harassment. But some were not so lucky. They were assaulted, and some were even killed. And in those moments, I saw reflections of other dark chapters in our nation's history. I saw how easily fear could overtake our sense of decency. And I began to understand how a country as great as ours could allow discrimination to fester and to grow. So even as I felt a deep love for this country, the only country that has ever been home for me, I felt a need and a desire to help make it the best version of itself. And I knew that there was no better way for me to do that, to give back and to serve and to stand up for others, than to become a part of law enforcement. You see, I thought it was especially important for someone who looked like me, who believed like me, to get up in front of judges, juries, and courtrooms in front of the public and stand at a lectern like this and say, "Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Gurbir Grewal, and I represent the United States of America." You see, I wanted to also promote understanding through my service, to show everyone that I and others like me were part and parcel of the fabric of this country, that I was doing my part to keep us safe. So that's exactly what I did. I was twice sworn in as an assistant U.S. attorney, first in Brooklyn, then right here in Newark, New Jersey. I was later appointed as the Bergen County prosecutor. And then 2 years ago, I was sworn in as the 61st Attorney General of New Jersey. And at each step along the way, I've tried my best to ensure that the government, or at least whatever part of the government I touched, advanced the cause of justice. Now as Attorney General, I'm working hard to stand up for all 9 million New Jerseyans, whether that's defending against attacks from Washington, pushing back against this rising tide of hate and intolerance that we're experiencing, or pushing forward what our vision of a fair and just state can look like in this state. And while I am absolutely proud of everything we've been able to accomplish in the last 2 years, I'm especially proud of how we stood up for our dreamers. When the state of Texas tried to strip protection for our dreamers, we, New Jersey, went down to federal court in Texas and we stopped them. And when the Texas lawyers got up there and they made technical legal arguments, New Jersey's lawyers got up there and talked about people. They talked about the lives that would be disrupted, the families that would be uprooted. And now we've taken that fight to the Supreme Court. And as a result, the nation's nearly 800,000 dreamers and the 17,000 that call New Jersey home can, for the moment, continue to live their lives without the fear of deportation. So we are doing everything we can. We are doing everything we can at the Attorney General's office to ensure that we don't turn the page back to those darker chapters in our nation's history, but instead to brighter new ones. You can clap. But that's my story so far. And so as you walk off this stage this evening with your degrees in hand, know that your journeys are just beginning, that you too may encounter obstacles or adversities that you never anticipated or could have imagined. But when one door closes for you, don't ever be afraid to change course and to open another one. Don't ever be afraid to follow a path you never before considered or even thought was possible for you. Always be open to new opportunities and possibilities. Try to enjoy the journey and know that you will find your calling. But along the way, here's my ask of you. I ask that you always look to find ways to make that journey easier for others. I'm not saying that all of you have to answer that call to public service, at least not until after you pay off your student loans, but what I am saying is that we need your help right now. We need your help in this moment in our country's history and in our state's history. We need your help especially in standing up to acts of bias and hate. You see, unfortunately today, we have some people that openly question the legitimacy, the loyalty, the patriotism of their fellow Americans simply because of the way they look, what they believe, or who they love. Today, we have even seen people engaging in acts of violence against others based on such differences. And I am certain that there are many in this room this evening that are experiencing the difficulties of this moment firsthand. And so while we're doing everything in our power to keep our residents safe in this climate, we can't do it alone. We need each of you to help if we truly wish to reclaim this moment. We need you to help us heal and improve our communities, because we must all call out hate and intolerance wherever and whenever we see it. We must all acknowledge that our words matter. We must all elevate our discourse, whether it's in public, in private, and especially on social media. And all of us here tonight must leave here and commit to filling the hearts of our next generation with love so they have no room in them for hate. But I'm certain that many of you will answer the call to public service one day. How do I know that? a third of you leave here tonight with degrees in education. You'll be the ones that ensure that our young people have the skills necessary to thrive in the future, and that they also learn to be kind, loving human beings. Others of you are going to use your degrees, your advocacy degrees, to stand up for the rights of women or the interests of children. And still others of you will use your counseling degrees and your compassion to help those suffering from the disease of addiction. And a number of you will use your science degrees to help us tackle climate change, which is real, and to protect our environment. And perhaps some of you will join my office and stand up for the rights of consumers, alongside Paul Rodriguez, our Director of the Division of Consumer Affairs and a proud Red Hawk. And I don't want to forget about our business majors. I couldn't fit you into the public service part of the speech, but I don't want to forget about you, because a third of you leave with degrees of business of some type, 186 MBAs tonight. I ask that you use your degrees and what you've learned to manage and lead ethical businesses. Use those degrees to lead businesses that respect, value, and support all of their employees. So here's what else I'm certain of this evening. All of you are going to do exceptional things, whether it's on the front page or out of the limelight. Like President Cole said, I can't wait to see also what all of you accomplish. In fact, I saw that 6 of you will leave with masters in English tonight. Hopefully at least one of you 6 will go on to write that next great American novel that I couldn't finish. And perhaps one of you in this crowd tonight, just one of you, will go home tonight, catch a Law & Order marathon, and go on to become the next Attorney General of New Jersey. I wish you all the very best of luck. My deepest congratulations. Godspeed on your journeys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney General. With the many hundreds graduating tonight, you now become an honorary alumnus of Montclair State University.
We did it!
And I'm here to say that we are all very proud to call you one of our own. I now call upon Provost Willard Gingrich as we begin the what? The conferment of degrees.
President Cole, it is my privilege to report to you that the candidates here assembled who have successfully completed the curricula offered by the several colleges and schools of Montclair State University have been so certified by the university registrar, and they are recommended by the faculty to be awarded degrees in recognition of their academic accomplishments. I am pleased to introduce Dr. Scott Hernus, Vice Provost for Research and Dean of the Graduate School, to present the university's doctoral candidates.
Thank you, Provost Gingrich. It gives me great pleasure to present the university's doctoral candidates. I call upon Dean Tamara Lucas and faculty mentors to present the doctoral candidates from the College of Education and Human Services.
The The candidate for the Doctor of Philosophy in Counselor Education, Mark William Kiang, hooted by Professor Amanda Baden.
There it is.
The candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy in Teacher Education and Teacher Development. Florita Cotto, hooded by Professor Catherine Herr. Serene Mabruk Hattab, hooded by Professor Alina Resnitskia. Gail Maliam Perry Ryder, hooded by Professor Jeremy Price. Kit Marie Saiz de la Mora, hooded by Professor Helen Rose Fives.
I call upon Dean Laura Billings and the doctoral candidates from the College of Science and Mathematics.
The candidate for Doctor of Philosophy in Environmental Management, Robert B. Alexi, hooded by Professor Pankaj Lal. The candidate for the Doctor of Philosophy in Mathematics Education, Debasmita Basu, hooded by Professor Nicole Panorku.
President Cole, upon the recommendation of the faculty, I have the honor to present these candidates for the doctoral degree.
Thank you, Dean Herness. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the State of New Jersey and the Board of Trustees of Montclair State University, and in recognition of your achievement in fulfilling the curricula prescribed, I confer upon you as earned the designated doctoral degree with all the rights, duties, privileges, and immunities thereunto appertaining, of which the diploma is the written witness. Congratulations, doctors. You may be seated.
President Cole, it gives me great pleasure to state that the members of the August 2019 and January 2020 graduating class who have successfully completed the university's requirements for the master's degree stand ready to be presented to you by their deans. Dean Greg Kant will present the candidates from the Feliciano School of Business.
Will the candidates for the master's degree from the Feliciano School of Business please come forward to receive your individual acknowledgement.
Zaid Mohammed Al-Qahtani I. Marielle P. Mora. Megan Nicole Milligan. Joseph Michael Harris, Elias Virgilio Acuna, Amanda Lucia Capaccio, Jonathan Uceda, Anja Nicole Wilson, Gabriel Suarez Mendizabal, Claire Giacomo, Stephanie Lynn Munoz, Kirsten Elizabeth Lang, Brittany A. Soreo, Melissa G. Andres, Chin-Wei Chen, Ping Gong, Jessica Danto, Merve Uskush, Destiny Raynell Copeland, Jacqueline Elizabeth Cano, Joseph William Brigley, Brendan Patrick Gill, Danita T. Clark, Marlene Y. Garcia, Catherine Narciso Bernardo, Julie Louise Dry, Mariana Vasilovich, Todd Adam Taylor, Estelle Stephanie Nimpa Zetterberg, Gregsari Martinez, Shanice Andrea Bascom, Ayoade Olotunji Oyatokun, Nicholas Helmstetter, Krishna B. Vyas, Courtney Kyla Finnegan, Carrie Tian Crowley, Ricardo Atade, Giovanni Crespo Sr., Lavenda Deanna Moore, Christopher Michael Dixon, Andres R. Adamovich, Diane Hoyos, Sanam Khadija Nasseri, Raquel Stephanie Lavin, Jafana Imani Thurmond, Darylyn Green, Victoria Cardwell, Michael Christopher Leshy, Mia Bella D'Agostini,
Magdalena Maria Bayard Eshad,
Yolesta Massey, Jacqueline Figurelli Egan, Shannon Stephanie Verkamen, Antoinette M. Cassis, Shamira Tanae Drakeford, Chikelu Ifyani Uzo, Aman Sachdeva, Nilufar Artang, Hyunju Han, Lance John Tober, Liana Ashana Das, Ramaz Chamoun, Sherry Nina Walters, Miriam Cadabo, Gabrielle Volkov, Adriana Wilson, Sarah Jean Widley Bianemi, Cynthia Paola Vasquez, Erica Ninoska Hernandez, Anel Gonzalez, Nikita Singh, Sophia B. Sakinda, Robin Theodule, Melanie Aisha Ali, Diane Althea Dixon, Christopher Brian Keel, Brian Manuel Lamas, Anthony E. Florio, Evelyn A. Perez, Lauren Simone Bethea, Brittany Nicole Nauman, Clarissa Torres, Mackenzie Mila Clapperton, Melissa Ann Thornley, Angeli Y. Gintu, Dominique Marie Andre, Shanice N. Simmons, Carly Marie Phelps, Shivani Jani, T. Swander, Hamad Rueshid Alazmi, Li Nanzhang, Sakila Akhtar, Mayank Bipin Chandra Pachal, Umar Nawaz, Sash Vasilovich, Timothy R. Miller, Wenting Wang, Adnan Ahmed Hashmi, Sneha Putatunda, Akash Daded, Ariel Mark Moskovich, Nitani Isabel Sanchez, Saranda Sella, Landerman Evra, Andres Perez, Emmanuel Pinto Santos, Terrence Terrell Rollins, Natalia Gomez Reyes, Daniel De Silva, Nicholas Raymond Carbonero, Sydney Zoe Garcia, Adrian Garces, Eleni Yerger, Daria Michelle Seaman, Daniela Di Benedetto, Darby Ann Nolan, Jessica Ashley Barbosa, Gianci de Jesus Moreno Lasal, Olede Modupe Oke, Matthew Scott DiGiamo, Felice Minocchio, Amanda Bota, Kudzeche Elias Gutu, Pedro Ricardo Antonio, Edwin Owusu Nimako, Maggie Ibrahim, Alicia Ann Caesar, Katrina Victoria McAlintle, Yasmin Nairi Lacey, Foluke Tamitope Onajide, Yanelis Nunez, Anthony Jude Branda, Paige L. Seaman, Brittany Ann Gonzalez, Zena Aldaba, Sarah Elizabeth Potter, Samantha T. Wells, Lori Milagros Vargas, Suraj Jasing Rao Adnaik, Emily Vanderberg Ung, Krishna Bengali, George Michael Lopez, Brendan Charles Hager, James Christopher Donatos, Lionel B. Ponies Jr., Armand Rigual, Tyra Kanza Ahmed, Surabi Mulgalkar, Sheikha Mohammed Al-Shaks, Zakara Niema Dunn, Cesar Masila Nuzuki, Naya Imani Dark, Ashley Kapayan,
Dean Daniel Gurskus will present the candidates from the College of the Arts.
Will the candidates for the master's degree in the College of the Arts please come forward to receive your individual acknowledgement?
Tumishe Odufiye, William Thomas, Bochi Zhao, Melissa Patricia Akupena, Christopher T. Pizzuti, Laura Elizabeth Carter,
Dean Laura Billings will present the candidates from the College of Science and Mathematics.
Will the candidates for the master's degree in the College of Science and Mathematics please come forward to receive your individual acknowledgement?
Melissa Yvette Perez, Harrison Shalmar Granados, Woo-hee Kim, Judy Quen Hu, Rosara Nunez, Muhammad Omar Siddiqui, Liohua Li, Adam Kaplan, Dylan Justin Lalu, Benjamin Scott Michael, Kala Fills, Anita Trykovska, Rachel Fritz, Christina Babu Varghese, Drashti Pathak, Thomas Andrew Chupella, Kyrie Elise Matera, Sarah Yasmin Latif, Kristen Lee Reeves, O'Shane Dwight Thomas, Sarah Rachel Hoffman, Erica Bernal, Vasilios Andrew Orologis, Michael O. Perez, Kiba Gabriela Antoinette Nelson, Marina Kolarova Hofbauer, Ahmed M. Ezelden, Oruba Ahwad Adad Shatnawi, Emily Catherine Chong, Conchetta Carmela Gonzalez, Angela Renee Harrington, Daniel Gerold,
Dean Tamara Lucas will present the candidates from the College of Education and Human Services.
Will the candidates for the master's degree in the College of Education and Human Services please come forward to receive your individual acknowledgement?
Tyler Lawrence Golosinski, Tatiana Blue, Brianna Dale Caro, Sunjata Sekou, Andre C. Green, Alexandra Aguiar, Paul Michael Levitan, Dana Marie Clark, Samantha Lee Ament, Mina M. Khaled, Laurel Ann LeHoulier, Tiffany Page Lagath, Anna Jean Proctor, Bridget Shaban Sorum, Joseph Dennis Brower Jr., Maria Hewins, Patricia Ann Congleton, Joanna Lee Haley, Caitlin Mallory Callahan, Janet Elaine Dillon Kowalczyk, Patricia Celine Marin, Elizabeth Nunez, Kristen Ann Molinaro, Colleen J. Orlando, Marcus Jovan James Leak, Guilherme Bertrand Araujo, Catherine M. White, Michael Leo Zapique, Amanda Chavez, Tanis Elon Shaban, Kristen Oleski, Nicole Apruzzi, Marianne Nemry, Courtney Elizabeth Gullickson, William August Wolfe, James Ernest Gallo, Elham Manucheri, Abby Mary Grace Lamberto, Cynthia Perez, Kelsey Ann Tonnery, Megan Rose Healy, Leslie Marie Baez, Iraiz Cardenas, Delinas Rodriguez, Deborah S. Schachtel, Lori Ann Klein, Amanda Dolores Lopez, Bria Christy Thomason, Ashley Carmen Bays, Alexa Gabrielle Bono, Jill Claire Grennan, Ninjil Diran Bhuta, Afia Mathlib, Linda Chimisian, Emilia Spaseska Bianco, Katia Gonzalez, Jacqueline Christina Feliciano, Ariana Frances Glogauer, Fiona Karanitha Dobbin, Dorian Serrano, Ava Marie Swaby, Jenny A. Shannon, Elizabeth Catherine Terminini,
Jillian Kruglio.
Stephanie Bernardus Kwok, Marcos A. Bayas, Elmani S. Viney, Francis I. Vidal, Robin L. Brown, Ashley Naya Giles, Nicholas Maximiliano Mijan, Catherine Julie Quintana, Gadir J. Adelaziz, Irene Suzanne Worth, Ashley K. DeKennett, Stephanie Kim, Michelle Marie DeLuccio, Joanna Bianco, Taylor Nicole Pini, Sarah A. Boyages, Courtney D. Risoli, Jared Ulysses Cruz, Lauren Perez, Sarah Cecilia Lavarat, Patricia Miraldo da Cunha, Jacqueline St. Clair Ensman, Melissa Danielle King, Melissa Correa Prata, Estefania Vanessa Rios, Samantha Nicole Leone, Jamie Katz, Waleska Burgos, Stephanie Noriega, Grant Weston Verity, Amanda Marie Saccone, Nicole Alexandra Alvarez, Makeda Williams, Roanne Lisa Jackson, Mary Megan Chismar, Michelle Melissa Festa, Adam Louis Bossard, Donna Marie Ryan O'Connor, Elba F. Valdez Burdette, Michelle Lynn Anders, Sabrina Elizabeth Rizzi, Jennifer DeMarco, Jessica L. Kutneski, Cara Robertello, Tracy Buckley, Joseph Patrick Cremona, Fernando Torres, Nicholas DeSisto, Christina Ann Boley, Francesca Mastropiero, Jenna Rose Tilton, Ashley Lynn Peterson, Amanda Silva Duarte, Jessica Maria Magdalena, Emily Augustine Jarger, Christine Moon, Ariane DeMarco, Elise Naomi Kaminsky, Francis C. Panny, Allison Paige Golish, Eugene Kim, Tressa Marie Prano, Francesca Espinal Guerrero, Laura E. Lopez, John A. Callion, Jacqueline Ann Wells, Keiko Shimizu, Anna Frances Pulaski, Victoria Ann Waller, Dominique Vetrano, Michael John Sutter, Louis Angel Davila Jr., Brianna Lee Capice, Carly E. Ratana, Christopher Harvey Loshi, Annette Bagan Lowe, Paul Andrew Paez, April Marie Tamburo, Albania Lidette Cabrera, Michael Zentek, Darren File, Arthur Richard Wilson, Melanie Page Baltzer, Erin Brooke Huff Pomponio, Rachel McKell, Marissa Linnell Santiago, Jennifer Montana, Jeremy Matawush Zach, Leanne Fedkenhauer, Carolyn Ann Liu, Kathy Marie D'Antonio, Tara Richards, Andrea Marie Kozlowski Lynch,
Dean Lucas will now testify concerning certification of members of the class to teach.
Will the members of the graduating class who participated in a teacher preparation program please rise? Anyone who, yes, thank you. If you got a teacher certification, please rise, okay? President Cole, it gives me great pleasure to state that these graduates have successfully completed their academic majors, a professional sequence, and the appropriate examination, and are certified and qualified to teach in the public schools of the state of New Jersey.
Thank you, Dean Lucas. And congratulations to the teachers of New Jersey.
Dean Peter Kingstone will present the candidates from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences.
Will the candidates for the master's degree in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences please come forward to receive your individual acknowledgement?
Maria Cecilia Borges Cotu, Daniel Joseph Kurtzman, Alexis Janae Frederique, Catherine Selena Arevalo, Joya Carmela Pingera, Corinne Dana, Michelle F. Mayrer, Jennifer Alyssa Khan, Michaela Sierra Legalin, Stephanie Lee Isaacson, Dana Lynn Algin, Zeta Vanessa Lopez, Domenica Gomes, Cindy Gabriela Fernandez, Amanda Martha Massacre, Amy T. O'Gorman, Damilola A. George, Damilola Anu Akarele, Michelle Renhifo, Chelsea Ann Stack, Lillian Nyanchama Mayaka, Alyssa D. Doctor, Carla Rosaria Chirelli, Alexandra Ortega, Jordan Dana Fernikes, Alexandra Page DeTroya, Meredith Walsh Hudson, Nicole Ann Tenard, Andrea Lauren Perkins, Carly Alexandra Trulio, Sophia Lynn Hendricks, Allison Gabrielle Stewart, Yvette Vaisman, E.J. Villamore, Catherine Michelle Maluski. Ann DeCaro. Jennifer Ellen Caceres. Grace Florence Lazarus. Joseph Todd Munson. Jamie Beth Weisbrod. Haley Melissa Shara. Allison Michelle Hinman. Faith Ilona Newens. Marisha Sonia Garcia. Catherine Alice Mobabe. Danielle Mary Naco. Danielle Marie Patrizzo. Sarah Phillips. Tatiana Curitin.
Daphne Tamista Kilveste.
Shannon O'Gorman. Tiana Ashley Boston. Joanne A. Johnson. Courtney Colleen Pellegrino. Dunia Khalid. Kathleen Ann McBrady. Kelly R. Brown.
Mary E. Umato.
Shayna Tulo.
Will all the candidates for the master's degree please rise? President Cole. President Cole, I am pleased to present these candidates who have qualified for the degrees of Master of Arts, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Music, Master of Arts in Teaching, Master of Education, Master of Business Administration, Master of Public Health, and Master of Science.
So you want these degrees? Okay. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the State of New Jersey and the Board of Trustees of Montclair State University, and in recognition of your achievement in fulfilling the curricula prescribed, I confer upon you, as earned, the designated master's degree with all the rights, duties, privileges, and immunities thereunto appertaining, of which the diploma is the written witness. Congratulations, masters. Please be seated. Look at that, you're so good. This concludes the Montclair State University graduate commencement exercises. We thank you all for sharing this evening with us, and I would ask everyone to remain seated until the recessional is complete. Congratulations to all.